We heard the rumors, we saw the police cruisers, but today we have the tape. Thanks to a Freedom of Information Act request, we are doing a frame-by-frame breakdown of the exact moment police officers cornered Caryn Chandler at Roloff Farms and finally read her rights. That is the opening hook circulating online right now. It is a narrative tearing through the little people, big world community, showing up in forums, comment sections, and viral videos across the internet. It is a story so wild and so purely triumphant for Amy Roloff's supporters that it has completely taken over the conversation. The internet is treating this alleged body cam leak as the ultimate karma for everything that has happened to the family over the last few years. My read is that this story of Caryn Chandler getting arrested on the farm is not actually about a real legal event. I have seen no verified public records, no official police reports, and no legitimate confirmation that Caryn was ever handcuffed at the farm. I think this entire scenario is a massive collective projection of the fandom's desire for justice. I'm going to walk through this storyline, break down why the internet is so desperate to see Caryn face these consequences, and look at the real, documented family breakdown that pushed viewers to invent this scenario. Before we look at the claims in this viral rumor, I think we need to talk about why the internet is so obsessed with the idea of a leaked police body camera video. Reality television is a heavily produced medium. For decades, fans have watched the Roloff family through the lens of producers, editors, and network executives who craft storylines to maximize viewership. Over time, a significant portion of the audience has developed a deep distrust of the narrative being presented on television. Many viewers feel that the show actively protects Matt Roloff and Caryn Chandler. They believe the editing minimizes the pain caused the rest of the family and artificially smooths over the very real conflicts regarding the property. A police body camera represents the absolute opposite of reality television. It is unedited, it is objective, and it cannot be controlled by Matt. The fandom's fixation on a body cam leak is really a demand for the unfiltered truth. They want a camera that TLC cannot turn off. They want to see Caryn and Matt without the safety net of their producer friends. To understand why a fake lawsuit and a fabricated arrest feels so plausible to the audience, we have to look at the actual documented history of Roloff Farms. For over a decade, fans watched Matt and Amy build not just a business, but a legacy intended for their children. The early seasons of the show heavily emphasized the idea of building a generational home. The property was heavily featured as a character itself in the early 2000s. Viewers watched Matt operate heavy machinery to build a 3-story pirate ship with a functional trapdoor. He constructed a replica Western town complete with a jail and a bank. He built a medieval castle. These were massive, expensive undertakings that were always framed as a legacy for his 4 children. The core narrative of the show was that all of this physical labor and financial investment was meant to secure the future of the Roloff name. The television audience bought into this premise completely. We watched the children grow up on that dirt. We watched them learn to drive tractors, harvest pumpkins, and talk about their dreams of one day taking over the family business. The fans formed a deep parasocial attachment to this outcome. When an audience watches a family build a home for 20 years, they feel a sense of ownership over what happens to that home. They feel like they were part of the construction process. For years, Amy was the stabilizing force inside the house while Matt was outside, dreaming up new construction projects. The show documented her cooking, managing the kids' schedules, and trying to rein in Matt's massive spending habits. She was the practical counterweight to his grand visions. When the marriage dissolved, the audience felt a deep sense of loss. The divorce was highly publicized and deeply emotional. Viewers watched Amy agonize over the decision to sell her portion of the farm. She spent months sorting through decades of memories in the big house. It was a painful transition, and fans largely sided with Amy because she appeared to be the one sacrificing her home for the sake of peace. We watched her pack her life into boxes and move into a new neighborhood, leaving behind the massive estate she helped fund and maintain. Caryn Chandler originally entered this environment not as a family member, but as an employee. She was introduced to the audience as the farm manager. Running pumpkin season is a massive commercial enterprise. It requires coordinating parking, managing ticket sales, hiring seasonal staff, and ensuring the safety of thousands of visitors. Caryn was the person in charge of all those logistics. She worked closely with the entire family to make sure the business ran smoothly. She held a position of immense logistical and financial trust. When Matt and Amy's marriage fell apart, the transition of Caryn from a staff member to Matt's romantic partner blurred the lines between family and business in a way that viewers found deeply uncomfortable. The person who used to organize the scheduling was suddenly positioned as a future matriarch. Viewers watched Amy express her discomfort with the new relationship on camera. The audience felt protective of Amy and viewed Caryn's elevated status on the farm with intense suspicion. The tension escalated significantly when the show documented the actual farm buyouts. Zach brought a formal offer to his father. He wanted to buy the main portion of the property and keep it in the family. The cameras captured the fallout when Matt rejected that offer. Zach made it very clear in his confessional interviews that he felt Caryn was improperly inserting herself into family business. He expressed frustration that his father's girlfriend was involved in a negotiation that should have been strictly between a father and his sons. Matt defended Caryn, insisting she was just supporting him, but the damage to the family dynamic was permanent. Zach and Tori packed up their lives and moved out of state to Battleground, Washington, effectively severing their daily relationship with the farm. Jeremy and Audrey also attempted to buy a portion of the property. That negotiation also failed. Jeremy ended up purchasing his own separate farm with his wife. The fans watched both of the twin boys, who were supposed to be the heirs to this massive agricultural project, walk away empty-handed. The breaking point for the viewers came when Matt officially listed 16 acres of the farm, including the iconic big house, on the open market for $4 million. The family felt completely priced out of their own legacy. The fans watched a generational dream crumble, and they largely assigned the blame to Caryn. They saw her as the outsider who came in, consolidated power with Matt, and pushed the children out of their inheritance. This brings us back to the viral rumor currently dominating the internet. The setup for this fictional arrest involves a breaking point where Caryn faces a $5 million lawsuit and massive financial theft revelations. According to the rumor, Caryn believes she was untouchable and defiantly returned to the farm property despite strict legal warnings to stay away. I think we need to look at why fans invented this particular financial crime. I do not have any evidence that a $5 million lawsuit exists. There are no court documents supporting the idea of massive financial theft. However, reality television creates a unique bond between the viewer and the cast, where the audience tracks financial fairness based on their own emotional investment. Because Caryn is now positioned to benefit from the retained wealth of the farm, the internet has created a scenario where she is legally punished for it. The $5 million figure in the rumor is likely a direct inflation of the $4 million listing price of the farm. The fans are trying to mathematically correct what they see as an unjust division of the family wealth. They feel that Matt and Caryn are hoarding resources that belong to Zach, Jeremy, Molly, and Jacob. The idea of Caryn being untouchable directly mirrors her actual behavior on the show, where she often appears completely insulated from criticism by Matt's constant defense. Whenever a family member expresses an issue with Caryn, Matt quickly shuts the conversation down. The fans are tired of watching her get away with what they perceive as manipulative behavior, so they invented a scenario where the law finally catches up with her. The rumor mill escalates the story with a highly particular twist involving a trap. The claim is that Amy's security system instantly flagged Caryn's vehicle, automatically dispatching the Washington County Sheriff's deputies. The video circulating online described the alleged body cam footage frame by frame. They describe Caryn having an arrogant smirk when the officers arrive, which quickly turns into sheer panic when they pull out handcuffs instead of issuing a warning. I think this part of the narrative is fascinating because it gives Amy the ultimate technological and moral victory. In reality, Amy had to physically leave the farm. Moving away from the property was a long, painful process that was heavily documented on the show. Amy often expressed feeling displaced and overwhelmed. The idea of Amy's security system springing a trap on Caryn is pure revenge fantasy. It places Amy in a position of authority and surveillance. This scenario allows her to catch Caryn in the act of trespassing, reversing the actual dynamic where Amy was the one who had to pack her bags. As for the arrogant smirk mentioned in the rumor, that is a direct reference to how fans perceive Caryn during her confessional interviews. Over the years, viewers have heavily scrutinized Caryn's facial expressions, her tone of voice, and her body language. People often accuse her of being dismissive of Amy's feelings or acting overly entitled to the farm's resources. Fans analyze the way she looks at the camera when discussing the family drama. When the rumor describes her smirk turning into sheer panic, it is giving the audience the exact emotional payoff they have been denied by the television show. The show presents Matt and Caryn as a stable, happy couple moving forward with their lives. The internet desperately wants to see that stability shattered. They want the confident facade to break. Then we reach the climax of this online saga. The stories describe a chaotic, humiliating perp walk where Caryn screams for Matt to do something to stop the arrest. In this version of events, Matt just stands there completely powerless. He watches his fiancée get escorted into the back of a squad car on his own property. This is the emotional core of the entire rumor. For 25 seasons, Matt Roloff has never been powerless on his property. He is the master builder. He dictates the terms of every project. He controlled the land, he managed the heavy equipment, and he handled the financial negotiations with his own children. He has always been able to talk his way out of a problem or leverage his assets to get what he wants. He is a man who prides himself on his vision and his ability to execute that vision regardless of the obstacles. Putting Matt in a position where he cannot negotiate, where his authority means absolutely nothing to the police, is the exact punishment the audience wants for him. Fans harbor a deep resentment toward Matt for how the farm transition was handled. They feel he prioritized his own wealth and his relationship with Caryn over the well-being of his sons. By imagining a scenario where Matt is forced to watch Caryn be humiliated and taken away in handcuffs, the fandom is stripping him of his absolute control. This fantasy is designed to make him feel the same helplessness that Zach and Jeremy felt when they realized they would never own the farm. The viewers want Matt to experience the consequences of alienating his family, and they have decided that a public legal humiliation is the only appropriate consequence. It is not enough for Matt to just be sad. The audience wants him to be publicly embarrassed in front of the local authorities. Let me pause here to look at the other side of this situation. Is it actually fair to project all this villainy onto Caryn Chandler? I could be wrong, but it looks like the fandom is letting Matt off the hook by focusing all their rage on his girlfriend. The most charitable interpretation of Caryn's role is that she was simply an employee who fell in love with her boss, and she is now trying to support her partner through a very messy family transition. Matt Roloff is a grown man. He is the patriarch of the family and the primary owner of the business. Matt chose to reject his son's offers. Matt decided to list the 16 acres on the open market. Matt is the one who established the terms of the negotiations. Blaming the new girlfriend is a classic reality television trope. It is often easier for families and for fans to direct their anger at the outsider rather than confront the painful reality that the father of the family made decisions that hurt his children. We have to consider the possibility that Matt was simply asking for market value, and the boys were acting with a sense of entitlement. There is a huge debate in the fan community about whether Zach and Jeremy expected a handout. Running a farm is an incredibly expensive and labor-intensive endeavor. The property requires constant maintenance, high property taxes, and a massive overhead to operate pumpkin season. Matt built a multi-million-dollar enterprise through decades of relentless work. Is it fair for the audience to expect him to take a massive financial loss just to keep the property in the family? This is a real business dilemma that many agricultural families face. Transitioning a working farm to the next generation is notoriously difficult because the older generation usually relies on the value of the land for their retirement. If Matt felt his sons were not prepared to take on the financial burden of the farm, he had a right to protect his assets. I think there is a significant amount of unfair bias in how reality TV fandoms operate. We frequently see audiences rush to condemn the woman in the middle of a conflict while assigning less agency to the man actually making the choices. If Caryn offered her opinion during a family business discussion, she was doing so in the context of her relationship with Matt. He allowed her to be there. He valued her input. If Zach was uncomfortable with her presence, Matt had the power to ask her to step out of the room. He did not do that. Matt chose to keep Caryn at his side during those meetings. My read is that Matt might be using Caryn as a shield. By allowing her to take the brunt of the public criticism, he deflects attention from his own business practices. Maybe Caryn genuinely tried to help facilitate the farm deals and just got caught in a deeply toxic family dynamic that existed long before she ever started dating Matt. The fans act as though Caryn orchestrated a master plan to steal the farm, but the documented evidence points to Matt simply acting in his own financial self-interest. It is highly possible that Caryn is just collateral damage in a father and son dispute about money and pride. We also have to consider the emotional toll this public hatred takes on real people. The internet is flooded with videos and articles celebrating this fabricated arrest. People are actively searching for a mugshot that does not exist. They are sharing detailed breakdowns of body cam footage that was never filmed. The line between television entertainment and malicious harassment has completely dissolved in this community. It is one thing to criticize someone's behavior on a television show. It is another thing entirely to invent felony charges and circulate them as factual news. When audiences start creating fake police records, they cross a boundary that can cause real damage to a person's reputation and mental health. The phrase Freedom of Information Act request is heavily used in these viral rumors to manufacture credibility. This is a common tactic in internet clickbait. By using legal terminology, the creators of these stories make their claims sound authoritative and verified. A casual viewer scrolling through their feed sees the words FOIA request and body cam leak and assumes they are looking at real investigative journalism. They do not realize they are consuming a piece of fan fiction designed to generate outrage and views. The creators of these rumors know what buttons to push to keep the audience engaged. They know that fans want to see Caryn punished, so they dress up their lies in official-sounding language to make the fantasy feel real. The internet's obsession with karma often leads to these extreme fabrications. We want bad things to happen to people we dislike. We want the universe to balance the scales. When the legal system or the television network fails to provide that balance, the fandom takes matters into their own hands and writes the script themselves. Reality television trains us to expect a reunion episode where all the secrets are revealed and the villains are held accountable. When that does not happen in real life, the audience experiences a kind of psychological withdrawal. They invent the climax that the producers failed to deliver. They want a judge to bang a gavel and declare that Amy was right all along. The fallout from these rumors is significant. Even though the arrest never happened, the narrative shapes how millions of people view Caryn and Matt. It influences the comments on their social media pages. It affects how the audience interprets their actions on future episodes of the show. The story of the $5 million lawsuit and the police intervention has become part of the unofficial lore of Little People, Big World. Viewers will watch a normal scene of Matt and Caryn eating dinner and filter it through the belief that they are secretly hiding massive financial crimes. The rumor becomes a lens through which all future interactions are judged. We are constantly hearing about the mugshot that broke the internet and how the reign of terror is over. While we do not have a real booking photo to look at, the sentiment behind the rumor is very real. The fans feel that a reign of terror did occur, not in the form of financial theft or criminal trespass, but in the slow, painful dismantling of a family they cared about. The audience feels betrayed by the outcome of the show. They invested 20 years of their lives watching the Roloffs overcome obstacles together, only to watch them tear each other apart over real estate. They feel foolish for believing in the pirate ship and the Western town. The real tragedy of Roloff Farms does not require a police presence or handcuffs to be heartbreaking. The documented reality is sad enough on its own. A family that spent decades preaching the values of hard work, unity, and overcoming obstacles together is now permanently fractured. The grandchildren are growing up away from the property that was supposed to be their heritage. Zach's kids will not have the same memories of running around the farm during pumpkin season. Jeremy's kids will build their childhood memories on a completely different piece of land. The generational continuity that Matt talked about in the first season is gone. Amy is building a completely separate life with her new husband, Chris Merrick. Chris is often viewed by fans as the calm, stable counter to Matt's chaotic energy, and viewers are happy that Amy finally found peace. She hosts her own family gatherings now, far away from the shadow of the big house. Meanwhile, Matt is living on a massive farm that he has to manage without the help of his sons. He is building a new house on the property for himself and Caryn, but the energetic, chaotic family environment that defined the farm for decades is missing. It is a quiet property now. These viral stories about Caryn being humiliated and hauled off in a squad car are ultimately a distraction. They allow fans to focus on a cartoonish villain instead of sitting with the uncomfortable truth that money and ego can destroy even the strongest families. The internet wants a clean narrative where the bad guy is punished and the good guys win. Real life is much more complicated. The disputes over the farm were messy, emotional, and filled with misunderstandings on all sides. There is no clear villain and no clear hero. Just a family that could not figure out how to transition their business to the next generation without breaking their personal relationships. As the show moves forward, it will be interesting to see if the network attempts to address these massive online rumors. TLC has historically ignored fan fiction, preferring to stick to the storylines they have meticulously planned. Network producers rarely break the fourth wall to talk about internet gossip. But when a rumor reaches this level of viral saturation, ignoring it might become impossible. The audience is practically begging for a resolution that aligns with their sense of justice. The producers will have to figure out how to navigate an audience that is actively inventing alternate realities for the cast. The farm is still there. Matt and Caryn remain together on the main property, moving forward with their own plans. Zach and Jeremy have relocated to pursue their own independent projects and raise their families on their own terms. The television show will continue to document whatever pieces of the family are willing to film together. But the original dream of Roloff Farms is entirely gone. No amount of fake body cam footage or imaginary lawsuits can bring it back. The property that once symbolized family unity now serves as a monument to their division. Every time Matt drives his tractor past the old play structures, he is driving past the remnants of a family dynamic that no longer exists. I think the Little People Big World community needs to ask itself why it is so invested in seeing these people suffer. We watch this family for entertainment, but they are still real human beings dealing with the fallout of their own mistakes. Inventing crimes and celebrating fabricated arrests does not undo the damage that has been done. It only adds more toxicity to an already difficult situation. The fan base has become an echo chamber of negativity, where people try to outdo each other with wilder and more punishing theories about Caryn's behavior. It is entirely possible to disagree with how Matt and Caryn handled the farm negotiations without resorting to making up stories about them facing prison time. We can criticize the business decisions without criminalizing the people who made them. At the end of the day, the tape does not exist. The trap was never sprung. Matt never had to watch his fiancée be taken away by the Washington County Sheriff's deputies. The reality is much quieter and much more permanent. The family is divided, the land is forever changed, and the audience is left to make sense of how it all fell apart. I do not have all the answers, but I know that chasing internet rumors will not provide the closure that fans are looking for. We cannot fix the Roloff family by putting Caryn Chandler in a fictional jail cell. The truth is fully visible in the episodes we have already watched. We just have to be willing to accept it.